Well, hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reeds, and welcome to this kind of a somber episode of Movie Goodness today, because today we're going to do a in memoriam. Today we're going to celebrate the life and career of one Paul Reubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, who on this past July the 30th passed away at the age of 70 from his quiet bout with cancer. And Paul Reubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, is a staple in millions of people's childhoods, including mine. I mean, whether you like him or not, he had an impact in some shape, form, or fashion. Whether it was the Pee Wee Herman Show, whether it was Pee Wee's Big Adventure that came out in 1985, or Big Top Pee Wee that came out a couple of years after that, or Pee Wee's Playhouse, the Saturday morning show, or his supporting roles in several films, whether it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where he played the vampire, the main villain, well, one of the main antagonists in that film, or Mystery Men, where he played the spleen, or in Batman Returns, when he played Oswald Cobblepot's father. Even reprising that role, in a sense, it wasn't a sequel to it or nothing, but he did play Oswald's Cobblepot father yet again on the short-lived show Gotham that was on Fox a couple of years ago. And so he has a storied career. He also has some bumps along the way, and we're going to touch in on those as well. But in spite of those legal troubles, he is still a staple of my childhood. You know, I still hold him in high regard as one of the greatest entertainers of our generation. And I can say that now. You know, it's sad that I had to wait till the man passed away to really give him his flowers, even though I appreciated his talent when he was alive. But I really sat back and thought about it after the news broke that he passed away. And this dude was so committed to his craft. You only knew him as Pee Wee Herman. When he showed up as something else, you was like, that's Pee Wee? You know, it was hard to picture him in other things, but he was so talented, you know. And we're going to go through some of his accomplishments in his career. As I said, we're going to go through the highs and the lows, to be fair and impartial. And of course, our movie today is a no-brainer. It is a cult classic. It is a certified classic. If you ask me, one of the most quotable films in my childhood. Everybody in my elementary school quoted this film. We knew every line of this movie. It was a joy to have that camaraderie with everybody. I don't care if you was black, white, Hispanic, whatever. You knew this film and you loved this film as a child, even as a grown-up. And it is none other than the 1985 classic Pee Wee's Big Adventure, which was directed by Tim Burton in his directorial debut. So that is the rundown of today's show. Now, let's start off with a little bio of Paul Reubens, or Paul Reubenfield, who was born on August the 27th, 1952, and passed away on July the 30th, 2023. He was an American actor, comedian, and widely known for creating and portraying the character Pee Wee Herman. Reubens joined the Los Angeles troupe, the Groundlings, in the 70s and started his career as an improvisational comedian and stage actor. It was with the Groundlings that Reubens developed the Pee Wee character. After a failed audition for Saturday Night Live, Reubens debuted a stage show starring Pee Wee, the Pee Wee Herman Show, in 1981. Pee Wee became an instant cult figure, and for the next decade, Reubens was completely committed to his character, doing all his public appearances and interviews as Pee Wee Herman. He produced and wrote a feature film, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, in 1985, which we are going to review a little later, which was a financial and critical success. Its sequel, Big Top Pee Wee, came out in 1988. It was less successful. Between 1986 and 1990, Reubens starred as Pee Wee in the CBS Saturday morning children's program, Pee Wee's Playhouse. After seeing the success of Pee Wee's Big Adventure, the CBS network approached Reubens with an ill-received cartoon series proposal. In 1986, CBS agreed to sign Reubens to act, produce, and direct his own live-action Saturday morning children's program, Pee Wee's Playhouse, with a budget of $325,000 per episode, which is comparable of that of a half-hour primetime sitcom, and full creative control, although CBS did request a few minor changes over the years. Reubens assembled a supporting troupe, which include ex-groundlings and cast members from the Pee Wee Herman Show. They included such stars as the late Phil Hartman, John Paragon, Lynn Marie Stewart, Lawrence Fishburne. Yes, he was on that show as a cowboy nonetheless. Production began in New York City in the summer of 1986 in a converted loft on Broadway, which one of the show's writers, George McGraw, described as a sweat house. Reubens moved the production to Los Angeles for season 2 in 1987, resulting in a new set and more relaxed work atmosphere. Pee Wee's Playhouse was designed as an educational yet entertaining and artistic show for children. Its concept was greatly influenced by 1950s show Reubens had watched as a child, like the Rocky and Bullwinkle Show, the Mickey Mouse Club, Captain Kangaroo, and Howdy Doody. The show quickly acquired a dual audience of children and adults. Reubens always tried to make Pee Wee a positive role model. Reubens believed that children liked the Playhouse because it was fast-paced, colorful, and never talked down to them, while parents liked the Playhouse because it reminded them of their past. Pee Wee's Playhouse aired from September the 13th, 1986 until November the 10th, 1990. Reubens had originally agreed to do 2 more seasons after the third, and when CBS asked Reubens about the possibility of a 6th season, he declined, wanting to take a sabbatical. Reubens had been suffering from burnout from playing Pee Wee full time and had been warned that Pee Wee was temporary and that he had other ideas he would like to work on. The parties agreed to end the show after 5 seasons, which included 45 episodes and a Christmas special. Playhouse earned 22 Emmy Awards. Now, that was the height of Paul Reubens' career. Let's now dive into the low of Paul Reubens' career in 1991, just a year after he ended his run as Pee Wee Herman on Pee Wee's Playhouse. In 1991, July of 1991 to be exact, Paul Reubens was arrested in Sarasota, Florida, where he grew up, for indecent exposure while watching a film in a porno theater. During an unexpected police inspection, a detective detained Reubens along with 3 other people as he was preparing to leave. When detectives examined his driver's license, Reubens told them, "I'm Pee Wee Herman," and offered to perform a children's benefit for the sheriff's office to take care of this. The next day, after a local reporter recognized Reubens' name, Reubens' attorney extended the same offer to the Sarasota Herald Tribune in exchange for withholding the story. In 1971, Reubens had been arrested in the same county for loitering and prowling near an adult theater, though charges had been dropped. His second arrest occurred in 1983 when Reubens was placed on 2 years probation for possession of marijuana, although adjudication was withheld. On the night of the arrest, Reubens traveled to Nashville, where his sister and lawyer lived, and then to New Jersey, where he stayed for the following months at his friend's Doris Duke's estate. The 1991 arrest was widely covered, and Reubens became the subject of late-night talk show ridicule. Disney MGM Studios suspended a video from its studio tour that had showed Pee-wee explaining how voiceover tracks are produced. Toys R Us removed Pee-wee's toys from its stores. Reubens released a statement denying the charges. On November the 7th, 1991, he pled no contest. The plea avoided a charge on Reubens' record, but obligated him to 75 hours of community service. As part of his service, he created, produced, and financed 2 anti-drug public service announcements. Despite the negative publicity, many artists who knew Reubens, such as Cyndi Lauper, Zsa Zsa Gabor, and many others, voiced support. Reubens' fans organized support rallies after CBS canceled the reruns, picketing in Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco. The television news magazine, A Current Affair, received tens of thousands of responses to a Pee Wee Herman phone survey in which callers supported Reubens by a 9-to-1 ratio. Reubens did not offer interviews or appear on talk shows, but he did appear as Pee Wee at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards on September the 5th, asking the audience, heard any good jokes lately? He received a standing ovation. Reubens appeared as Pee Wee Herman only once in 1992 when he participated in the Grand Ole Opry tribute to Minnie Pearl. After his 1991 arrest, Reubens kept a low profile, dedicating himself to writing and collecting a variety of things, everything from fake food to lamps. Although he did do some dubbing and took some small parts in films such as 1992's Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Let's just go back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a second. Now, this isn't the TV show that starred Sarah Michelle Gellar. That was actually based off of a film, this film from 1992, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which starred Christy Swanson, Luke Perry, Rutger Hauer, Hilary Swank is in this movie, a young Hilary Swank, should I say, and Donald Sutherland. But the standout in this movie is Paul Reubens. And why is he a standout? This is the first time you've seen, at least me, seen Paul Reubens as anything other than Pee Wee Herman. I remember watching this movie, and no, before I watched it, I saw the trailer, and I saw this vampire. I'm like, and he looks familiar, but I couldn't put 2 and 2 together. You know, I was young and stupid. I think I was 13 then, and depending on who you ask, I'm old and stupid now. But that's a matter of debate. But I digress. Anywho's, this was a really funny movie. It's one of those guilty pleasure films. I'm not going to review it because that's not our film today. But I wanted to touch in on Paul Reubens' character in this movie. So funny. It's so funny. His death scene alone, he deserved an Academy Award. It was just hilarious, man. The way I can't get through it. Anyways, I love it. If you haven't seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the film that is from 1992, check it out, man. Just for Paul Reubens' performance, I promise you, I promise you, you're gonna die laughing, man. This dude is hilarious, and he showed how talented he is. Pee Wee Herman and his character in this film, I can't think of the name of his character, but uh, night and day, night and day. It's, if they wouldn't have said that was Paul Reubens or who plays Pee Wee Herman, I wouldn't have known. Like I said, young and stupid. So this was like a joy. I'm like, wow, this is weird to watch him in this role. But I loved it. I loved every second of it. And his portrayal as, even though it was short, I guess it's like a glorified cameo if you want to be honest with you. In Batman Returns as Oswald Cobblepot's father was a good one. Didn't speak, no speaking role, and the mother or the actress who plays his wife in the film, or the mother of Oswald Cobblepot, is portrayed by Diane Salinger, who co-starred with Paul Reubens in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, who was directed by Tim Burton. So it was a nice little Easter egg there. It was cool for those who knew it, but it was extra cool for me because I knew it. It was funny to watch that, and it was a good little role for him. You know, during the mid '90s, Paul Reubens played a recurring role on the TV series Murphy Brown. The role earned him positive reviews and his first and only non-Pee-wee Emmy nomination for Outstanding Guest Star in a Comedy Series. He appeared 6 times on the show between 1995 and 1997. Afterwards, Reubens began working on an NBC pilot entitled Meet the Mockles, a show that would be based on You Can't Take It From Me. The project got stuck in development hell and was later dropped, should I say, by NBC when Reubens' ideas grew too elaborate and expensive. Although Paul Rosenthal, who is an accomplished TV writer and producer, he blamed NBC's negative response on Reubens being on the blacklist. By 1999, Reubens had given several interviews as himself and made public appearances while promoting the film Mystery Men, the first being on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno that year. Let me tell y'all about Mystery Men. Mystery Men almost got reviewed today. That's how much I love Mystery Men. And I love Paul Reubens in it. And I love everybody in this movie. This is the most obscure comic book superhero, well, not comic, but it's not based on a comic book, I don't believe, but it is a superhero film that is just out of the box bananas crazy. Actually, it is based off a comic, if I'm not mistaken. Independent comic, I think. But anywho's, that doesn't matter. It was funny as I don't know what. You know, Ben Stiller, Greg Kinnear, William H. Macy, Cal Mitchell, Jeffrey Rush. You know, it had a Hank Azaria. It was a crazy cast, and Paul Reubens played one of the craziest characters in it. Basically, these amateur superheroes come together like the Avengers and to take down this powerful crime lord in Champion City, right? And they have the most dumb powers you can ever. Ben Stiller played Mr. Furious, and he allegedly he get his script when he gets mad. He's like the Hulk, but he doesn't turn green and big. But he doesn't. He just has an attitude problem. And you have William H. Macy, who played the shoveler, and his power is he can work a shovel. He can beat you up with a shovel. Cal Mitchell, who you may remember from Good Burger. He played the Invisible Boy or whatever his name is only, but I think it is the Invisible Boy. But he's only invisible if you don't if you don't look at him. If you look at him, he's there. It's just stupid. And in Paul Reubens, he's the spleen, and Paul Reubens' power is flatulence. So basically, when he fart, you'll pass out. That's the, he just had bad gas. But this is the movie. It is so silly. It is so funny. And I don't know what it is about this movie, but I absolutely love it. And I love Paul Reubens in it. Mystery Men, another one. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. It is hilarious. Well before its time. Well before its time. In 2001, Paul Reubens had his first extended TV role since Pee-wee's Playhouse as the host of the short-lived ABC game show You Don't Know Jack, based on the video game series of the same name. It was canceled after 6 episodes due to low ratings. I don't even remember that show. The name rings a bell, but I don't recall that show ever being on TV because it was only 6 episodes, so it was one of those blinks and you miss it. But also in 2001, Reubens played a flamboyant hairdresser turned drug dealer in Ted Demme's drama Blow, which also starred Penelope Cruz and Johnny Depp. His performance was praised, and he began receiving scripts for potential film projects at that time. He actually gave an awesome performance in that movie. That movie is another underrated movie. Or is it? I think it got proper rating. It was good. It was a really good film, but disturbing, based on a true story. And Paul Reubens as this drug dealer was like, wow. Once again, all I could see is Pee Wee Herman as this character, and it was like, what is going on right now? But he gave an awesome performance. Rick of the Citizen Patrol on the popular Comedy Central series Reno 911, which gained him a small role in 2007's film Reno 911 Miami. In 2007, Paul Reubens signed with NBC to make a pilot of a show called Area 57, a sitcom about a passive-aggressive alien, but it was not picked up for the 2007-2008 season. Reubens did, however, appear on the hit NBC series 30 Rock as an inbred Austrian prince, the character Tina Fey created for him. He also made 3 guest appearances on the FX series Dirt, playing a washed-up alcoholic reporter named Chuck Lufin. This time, he was recommended for the role by Dirt star and close friend Courtney Cox. Courtney Cox's husband, David Arquette, then cast Reubens in his directorial debut, the 2007 film The Trapper. In June of 2007, Reubens appeared as Pee Wee Herman at the Spike TV's Guys' Choice Awards for the first time since 1992. Reubens also had small parts dubbing and making cameos in a series of Cartoon Network projects such as the 2006 television film Reanimated, the animated cartoon series Chowder, Tom Goes to the Mayor, and Tim and Eric Awesome Show Great Job. In 2009, Paul Reubens voiced Batmite in the Batman Brave and the Bold episode Legend of the Dark Might. In January of 2009, Reubens hinted that negotiations were on the way for his stage show to come back. In August, the return of the Pee Wee Herman Show was announced. Reubens said he felt Pee Wee calling. This is a quote from him. "I just got up one day and felt like I'm going to come back." And there it was. The show is also a way to introduce Pee Wee to a new generation that didn't get to know it, preparing the way for Reubens' main project, the Playhouse film. Before his comeback, Paul Reubens' present age and shape had been pointed out as a possible issue. Since Pee Wee's slim figure and clean skin had been one of his trademarks, but after appearing for the first time since 1992 as Pee Wee Herman at the Spike TV's Guy's Choice Awards in 2007, Reubens had remained optimistic and had jokingly said he's no longer nervous about being young Pee Wee again, thanks to digital retouching. The show was originally scheduled to begin November 8th and continue until the 29th at the Music Box Theater in Hollywood. Due to high demand, the show moved to Club Nokia in LA Live and was scheduled to run between January the 12th and February the 7th of 2010. To promote the show, Paul Reubens once again gave interviews in character, appearing as a guest on The Jay Leno Show, The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien, and The Jimmy Kimmel Live Show, among others. A Twitter account, a Facebook account, and new website was made for Pee Wee after the show changed venues. On November 11th, 2010, the show relocated to New York City for a limited run, selling over $3 million in advance tickets. An extra performance was taped for the HBO network on January the 6th, 2011, and debuted on March the 19th. From 2012 to 2013, Reubens contributed his voice talents to the animated series Tron Uprising. In February of 2015, Netflix acquired the rights to produce a new Pee Wee film entitled Pee Wee's Big Holiday, with Reubens and Judd Apatow producing the film, John Lee directing, and Reubens and Paul Russ writing the screenplay. The film released on March 18, 2016 on Netflix to positive reviews. Paul Reubens went on to reprise his role as pilot droid Rex in Star Wars Galaxy Edge, a Star Wars themed land that opened at Disneyland and Disney's Hollywood Studios at Disney World in 2019. Reubens previously portrayed the character in the original Star Tours attraction in 1987 and Star Wars Rebels in 2014. In Galaxy's Edge, the former Star Tours pilot droid RX-24, or Rex, had been reprogrammed into DJR3X, you get it, the house DJ of a bar and restaurant called Ogre's Katana. And he recalled Reubens' accent for November of 2002 while filming a video for Elton John's This Train Don't Stop There Anymore. Reubens learned that police were at his house with a search warrant. Police were acting on a tip from a witness in the pornographic case against actor Jeffrey Jones. If pretty sure everybody know who. Well, you probably don't, but yeah, it's pretty sick what happened to him. Finding among over 70,000 items of quiche memorabilia, two grainy videotapes, and a dozen of photographs that the city attorney's office categorized as a collection of children pornography. Kelly Bush, Reubens' personal representative at the time, said the description of the items were inaccurate and stated the items were Rob Lowe's sex tape and a few 30 to 100-year-old quiche collectible items. If you don't know what quiche stuff is, that's things that are in poor taste, you know, to some people. Maybe it's obviously it's not in poor taste to others, but whatever. I don't know. Reubens turned himself in to the Hollywood division of the Los Angeles Police Department and was charged with misdemeanor possession of obscene materials improperly depicting a child under the age of 18 in sexual conduct. The district attorney looked at Reubens' collection and computer and found no grounds to bring any federal charges against him, while the city attorney, Rocky Della Grillo, formally charged Reubens on the last day allowed by statute. Reubens was represented by Hollywood criminal defense lawyer Blake Brack. In December, he pled not guilty through Brack. In March of 2004, child pornography charges were dropped in exchange for Reubens' guilty plea to the lesser misdemeanor obscenity charges. For the next 3 years, he was required to register his address with the sheriff's office, and he could not be in the company of minors without the permission of their parents or legal guardians. Reubens later stated that he was a collector of erotica, including films, muscle magazines, and a sizable collection of mostly homosexual vintage erotica, such as photographed studies of teen nudes. Reubens said that what the city attorney's office viewed as pornography, he considered as an innocent art, and that what they described as people underage engaged in masturbation was in fact a judgmental point of view. Reubens described the nude images as people 100% not performing sexual acts. Being an avid collector, Paul Reubens often purchased bulk lots, and one of his vintage magazine dealers declared that there's no way he could have known the content in each page of the publication he bought. During this ongoing legal issue, Paul Reubens spent 2 years in Sarasota, Florida, caring for his terminally ill father, who died in February of 2004 of cancer. But moving on to his legacy, Pee Wee Herman was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1989 and successfully built a Pee Wee franchise with toys, clothes, and other items, generating more than $25 million at its peak in 1988. Paul Reubens also published a book as Pee Wee in 1989 called Travels with Pee Wee. CBS aired reruns of Playhouse until July of 1991 when Reubens was arrested, pulling from their schedule the last 2 remaining reruns. Fox Family Channel briefly aired reruns of Playhouse in 1998. In early July 2006, Cartoon Network began running a teaser promo on its Adult Swim lineup. A later press release and many other promos confirmed that the show's 45 original episodes will air nightly from Monday to Thursday starting on that date. Playhouse attracted 1.5 million viewers nightly. In 2007, TV Guide named Playhouse one of the top 10 TV cult classics of all time. Several children's programs personas cite Pee Wee Herman as an inspiration, including Steve Burns of Blue's Clues and the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants. In November of 2004, all 45 episodes of the Playhouse, plus 6 episodes that had never been released on home video, were released on DVD split between 2 box set collections. On July 3rd, 2013, Shout Factory announced that they had acquired the rights of the entire series from Reubens, which was released on Blu-ray on October the 21st, 2014. In addition, the entire series was digitally remastered from the original 35mm film element and original auto tracks. Pee Wee's tight-fitted Glen-plated suits seemed ridiculous during the 1980s, but since the late 1990s had made him a style icon, with fashion houses and designers creating tightly cut suits with high armholes in short trousers that have been compared to Pee Wee Herman's. Paul Reubens discussed plans for a museum, which would contain many of the Playhouse sets and props that he had owned. On July the 30th, 2023, at the age of 70, Paul Reubens died from cancer at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He had been diagnosed 6 years earlier, but had not revealed the diagnosis to the public. Following his death, a statement written by Paul Reubens himself was released, and this is his final statement. Please accept my apology for not going public with what I've been facing for the last 6 years. I have always felt a huge amount of love and respect for all my friends, fans, and supporters. I have loved you all so much and enjoyed making art for you. Rest in peace, Mr. Paul Reubens, aka Pee Wee Herman. Let's go over some of his filmography. We went over a few, but let's go over some more that he has graced the silver screen and the small screen with, that you may have seen him on or didn't realize that was him. Because for years, I didn't realize in 1980, one of my favorite movies of all time, The Blues Brothers, he premiered it. That was one of his first roles. He was the waiter in that restaurant where the Blues Brothers went in, that fancy restaurant that they were partaking in, let's just say it like that. He was also in Cheech and Chong's next movie as Pee Wee Herman. Nonetheless, he was also appeared in another Cheech and Chong movie, Nice Dreams, Meatballs Part 2, of course, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, which we're about to go over in a few minutes. The Flight of the Navigator. He was the voice of the ship. I didn't know that until I did research for this show. Blew my mind. He was in we already mentioned Big Top Pee Wee, Batman Returns, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was also a voice on The Nightmare Before Christmas, Matilda. He played the FBI agent in that film. Dr. Doolittle. He was the voice of the raccoon. The Smurfs movies that came out in 2011 and 2013, part 1 and 2. He played Jokey Smurf. He was the voice of Jokey Smurf. And his final film in 2016, Pee Wee's Big Holiday, which premiered on Netflix of that year. On the small screen, once again, a lot of roles. Just going to go through some of them. He appeared on Mork and Mindy, the Pee Wee Herman Show, of course, Madame's Plays, Saturday Night Live. He was the host as Pee Wee Herman. He wasn't there as Paul Reubens. He was there as Pee Wee Herman, which was ironic because he was hosting the show, but the reason Pee Wee Herman came to be was because he was rejected in his audition, which prompted him to create the Pee Wee Herman stage show. So it was a weird twist of fate for him to host the show in 1985. He went on to do Pee Wee's Playhouse. He was on an episode of 227, Sesame Street, Murphy Brown, as we mentioned, Everybody Loves Raymond, Ally McBeal. He did voice work on the Rugrats cartoon. He appeared on Monday Night Raw for WWE as Pee Wee Herman. And as recent as this year, in 2023, he was the voice of Pat on Bob's Burgers. And so he has had a storied career. Yes, he had some bumps along the way, but if you could separate the art from the artist, you know, you have to appreciate everything that he did. Still, despite all the arrest and all that there, I really, really admired him as an artist and how talented he was and how much of an impact he had on my childhood. You know, that Pee Wee's Playhouse was, I mean, just it was gold, man. I watched that every Saturday morning when I was growing up. I had to get up. I had to get up to watch Pee Wee. Of course, the cartoons, but my number one priority was Pee Wee's Playhouse. And so I really, really loved that character. And I really do appreciate Paul Reubens for what he accomplished and did and brought into my life and to millions of others. Rest in peace, Mr. Reubens. So at this time, without further ado, of course, it would be blasphemy to not review the film that, if Pee Wee's Playhouse did it for me as a TV show, my God, the movie Pee Wee's Big Adventure was another one. As I mentioned when I opened the show, this was one of the most quotable films of all time. I still remember everything. When I watched it the other day to prepare for this show, it was I, I was reciting it word for word, and it has been years since I've seen Pee Wee's Big Adventure, but it's still burnt into my skull, word for word, everything in this movie. Pee Wee's Big Adventure from 1985 is an adventure comedy film directed by Tim Burton in his feature film debut. And it stars Paul Reubens as Pee Wee Herman, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Phil Hartman, who passed away as well a few years back. It is described as a parody of the 1948 Italian classic Bicycle Thieves. It tells the story of Pee Wee's nationwide search for his stolen bicycle. And that's what the movie's about. What made this movie so exciting and what made me fall in love with the Pee Wee Herman character, I want to revert back to what I said before. I was young and stupid. I really believed that Pee Wee Herman was a kid. Because I could not fathom the idea of a grown man being this aloof. It just didn't compute in my little 6, 7 year old head. He just acted perfectly like a child. He acted like me. Actually, I felt like I was a little more mature than him at points in this film, but it just resonated with me. I'm like, okay, it's a kid, and he has his bicycle, and it was like a Batman. It was like the Batmobile. It had all the gadgets and stuff. The film opens with little, I don't know what would you call that? The little alarm clock that triggered the breakfast being made, the toaster being toasted the toast, and bacon and eggs, and it's just this robotic house, and it's like, man, this is a house I want to live in. This is why can't I have this house? I would wake up promptly every morning if my house did that. If I had an alarm clock that did that. And along with Pee Wee, all these supporting characters that were just bouncing off of him and making this movie funnier than what it needed to be. Yeah, it was silly and goofy, but it had heart. This movie actually has heart, and it's one of those movies that sticks with you for a lifetime, because it stuck with me all this time. I still remember sitting on the floor in my living room, legs crossed, and watching this movie, just in awe, laughing and wanting to cry. Like, man, I want you to get your bike so bad. Him going on this nationwide adventure. You have him doing the what was it? The Macarena, doing the Pee Wee Herman dance on top of that bar with those platform shoes. Large Marge. That character. The villain of the movie, Francis. Him getting into it with this, I guess, kid. He's supposed to be a kid. I don't know, but that was exciting. All the characters he's meeting on his way to San Antonio to get to the Alamo because he believes that the bike is in the basement of the Alamo, only to get all the way to the Alamo and find out the Alamo doesn't have any basements. It is like soul crushing at that point, and all these people helping him on his quest. It was just a fun fun movie about a stolen bicycle. And it had no business being this good, this funny, and this much of a classic. Tim Burton's direction here, which led him to landing the job as the director of Batman a couple of years later, is spot on perfect in this childish. This is a Tim Burton film. And at the time, I know this is his first film, but when you go back throughout his filmography and start at the beginning here with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you could clearly say this is a Tim Burton film. The score done by Danny Elfman, another Tim Burton collaborator. A fun score to get with. It's just an exciting, uplifting score. Everything worked in this movie, especially Paul Reubens as Pee Wee Herman. I have nothing else to say, but I absolutely love this movie, and it is a certified classic. Pee Wee's Big Adventure, which came out in 1985, gets a letter grade of an A. Love this movie. I wanted to cry when I watched it because I thought about Paul Reubens, and like I was saying before, how you wish you could give people their flowers while they're alive, and sadly, you don't really think back on a certain individual until after they're dead. You know, you think back on all the good they did. Yeah, we focus on the bad. We want to focus on his arrest and what he did in that theater, and because in the past few weeks after his death, I didn't heard this brought up a few times, and I'm like, okay, what's done is done. Let's move on. He did the crime. He did the time, so to speak. Let it go. Let it go. Let's honor his career. Let's honor him as Pee Wee Herman, as all these other roles that he crushed it throughout his career. Very talented man. He will be missed. Yes, man. Pee Wee's Big Adventure, certified classic. I'm really sad. I'm sad that he's gone. And for him to fight that battle on his own. Look, I know people who stumbled to cancer, and it's a brutal disease, man. It is brutal, and it's brutal to go through like that. And I sympathize for his family and his friends and all the fans around the world, because this was something else. And for him to do this quietly, it's admirable. It's the same thing that Chadwick Boseman did. Didn't want to make a big stink over it. Don't want nobody throwing pity parties for you and all this here. Just it's your battle to fight, and he fought it alone. God bless him. God rest his soul. Paul Reubens, 70 years old. He would have been 71 last week, but R.I.P. So I would like to know how you feel. Are you in mourning at the loss of this talented man, and the joy? Do you remember the joy he brought you as a kid, watching Pee-wee's Playhouse, watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and all the other films that he was a part of? Maybe you enjoyed him in Buffy the Vampire Slayer more, or you enjoyed him in Mystery Men more, or you enjoyed him on Blow, these other projects that he was a part of. Hey, Pee-wee wasn't the only thing he did. That's the thing he's most known for, but he did other things, and he did them well. I would like to know if there's anybody different. Is there something else that he did that you enjoyed? And I'm not talking about the porn stuff. I mean artistically. Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look me up on all social media platforms. Just look up the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to Movie Goodness on the KB Radio Network, as well as YouTube too, people. Don't forget to swing over to YouTube, subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel, and like this video. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today. If there's any new listeners to the show, if this is your first time listening to Movie Goodness, thank you for joining me. I hope I said something today that will make you want to subscribe and download all the content here on the KB Radio Network. Don't forget, we're not only Movie Goodness, we also have the Dome Patrol podcast where we talk New Orleans Saints football. We also have the Concession Stand where we review new released films, and Faces and Heels, which is a pro wrestling podcast here on the KB Radio Network. So thank you for joining me. And for all of you who have continued to support this show throughout the years, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.